Hey everyone, it's Tom from Triple Threat. Before we begin this episode, I just want to let you know that there were some problems when recording this episode. We did our best to fix them, but there are still a few times that the audio and video are out of sync. But nevertheless, we hope that you enjoyed this episode of Triple Threat.
Hey, this is Ryan Saranich from Brit Floyd. Thanks for listening to Triple Threat.
Awesome, thanks, man.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Triple Threat. I'm Tom.
I'm Garrett.
And we are back here to talk about a recent release. At the beginning of the month that we are recording this, on June 1st, Roger Daltrey of The Who released his 10th studio album.
Yes,
and
as long as I have you.
That's right. And we have heard the album, and we're going to give our thoughts on it. And honestly, I was even surprised that it was only 10.
Yeah.
I mean, his last album was Going Back Home from 2014, which was a collab album between him and Wilco Johnson.
Right.
And then before that, it was 1992 was his, like, I guess you could say last proper studio album where it was just him.
Yeah. He's done some stuff in between, like charity shows, and he did the Townsend shows where he would play a bunch of Pete Townsend songs, including stuff from Pete's solo career. Mm-hmm. And also just dribs and drabs here of specials and a couple of singles here and there, but not really much.
Right. I mean, in terms of solo, I mean, not to mention he had Endless Wire in 2006 with The Who, and then of course the tours and things like that. Mm-hmm. But in terms of solo, this is only his 10th studio album.
That's right.
It was released at the beginning of the month on June 1st. And speaking of Pete Townsend, it was sort of hyped, and you can see it on the sticker right here. Yeah. Pete Townsend plays guitar on 7 songs.
Yes.
Now, before anyone really gets your hopes up, I was hoping for this. Pete does not write any songs on this album, which at first I was kind of like, oh man, it's only been, since 2014, since the last Who single.
Right.
Be Lucky. But it really seems like this was Roger's idea. And if you read the booklet, one of the other reasons why Roger took a long time to make this album is because he kind of shelved it for a while.
Yeah, so to give some sort of prehistory for the album, recording began after the Going Back Home sessions in 2000 when it was released in 2014. I'm gonna look at my notes here.
Do it.
And that's why you have some of the same session musicians on this, like Sean Jenneke, who is the guest guitarist. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea behind it was after Roger had revisited these blues things that he did with Wilco, he wanted to look at the era before The Who started playing Townsend original songs, and so share a sort of idea, let us get an idea of his vocal style before The Who started making their own thing happen. Mm-hmm. And then Roger had to pause the recording when he came down with a nearly fatal bout of viral meningitis.
Yeah.
And he nearly died. He said it was pretty touch and go at points. Mm-hmm. Thank God he made it out.
Yeah, really.
And after that long battle, he was out for 7 months. 1 month in just the hospital and 6 months recovering.
Yeah.
And after that, he looked at the tapes he'd made and said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to release this anymore.
Mm-hmm. And then
Pete got a hold of the early mixes somehow, probably because the producer Dave sent it to him. I've seen interviews with Dave and Roger, and Dave's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
Dave probably sent him these early mixes, and Pete says, "Can I put guitar parts on this, man? Because it sounds really good." Mm-hmm. And then Roger's like, "You know what? Fine. Let's finish this together."
Exactly.
And thank God, because Pete really sells a lot of the album.
Right. And when I saw this in the stores, it had this sticker, and yes, I am one person who peels off the sticker and keeps them on the CD case, that it says, I'm just going to read it verbatim, the brand new studio album from The Who frontman, and The Who is in bold letters, featuring guitar by Pete Townsend, also in bold letters. Yeah. And of course they have the famous jacket as the sort of cover of the sticker.
Right.
And so it was kind of meant for people to, I guess, see that and almost fool them into thinking it was a Who album.
Yeah, it's a sort of halfway Who album. Roger made the McVicker soundtrack in 1980.
That's right.
Which has John and Pete on it.
Mm-hmm.
So and Kenny Jones.
That's right.
So
right.
it's kind of been thought of as the Lost Who album in some parts. I don't think it sounds that much like the Who, but that's another album.
Yeah, and Pete really helped out Roger, and the reason why I would speculate why Pete didn't write a song, I would imagine there would have to be some, I guess, talk. Like Pete could write a song. Pete's like, no, this is Roger's album that I'm helping out with.
Yeah,
and getting into the songs, as we'll get into in a minute. Me personally, I barely hear Pete on this album because he's not doing much that sounds like Pete. In fact, if you look in the credits, it will list the two guitar players, Pete and who's the other guy? Sean
Janicki.
Sean does most of the electric stuff, and Pete's kind of just playing like rhythm acoustic guitar.
Yeah, or rhythm electric, but yeah, mostly acoustic from Pete.
And so he really is just like, one of the band here.
But
I'm saying it's still cool that he's here. And there's one song in particular that we'll get to that I think Pete actually does come to the front.
Yeah, there are a couple of songs where he does.
So I guess the last thing before we get into the actual songs is we should say that only two and almost, I guess you could say 2.5 of the songs are written by Roger on this album, because most of these are covers. As Roger said, he wanted to kind of go back to those songs before the Who became the band they were in 1964. But really surprised me is some of the covers here are actually from some of Roger's contemporaries.
Yes.
Artists who were with him in the 60s and 70s, which I found really surprising. But some of the stuff on here does sound like almost like you could have seen the Who play this when they were the High Numbers at the name of that hotel they were
the Railway.
At. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the impression that I got. What about you?
Yeah, totally. This is it's an interesting mix of old and new, because Roger has said before in some of the press leading up to this that he feels that he finally has the voice to sing soul from, the soul, for lack of a better word, because he feels that there's some edge to the voice that comes with experience.
I would agree.
And it could totally it all comes out on this album.
Oh yeah, one of the biggest things that's been said about soul music or even blues music, primarily artists that come from African American singers, is you have to almost have lived it or experienced it. Otherwise, it's going to sound, to quote the Stones, plastic soul, and to quote the Beatles, rubber soul.
Yeah.
So,
imitation.
Yeah. And even speaking of the Beatles, kind of what Ringo said, got to pay your dues if you want to sing the blues.
Exactly, yeah.
So I can totally see why Roger would say that, because the dude is over 70. He's had his ups and downs. So I would imagine he picked all these songs himself. So there's got to be like reasons behind each one of them.
Definitely.
So
let's get started on the tracks then.
Yeah, let's get started on the tracks. So the first track on the album is the title track, As Long As I Have You, written by Bob Elgin and Jerry Ragavoy. I'm going to try to pronounce these names the best I can. Primarily known for Garrett Mums, who recorded in 1964.
Garnet Mims.
Garnet Mims, thank you.
Yeah.
I can't even read my own handwriting. R&B singer, and of course this is 64, the year that the High Numbers changed their name to the Who.
Yeah.
And this is one that I could totally have seen them playing.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I have it written right here, and it has the rhythm of Heatwave in it.
Yes.
Which of course they played.
Yeah. But it's even more than Heatwave.
Oh yeah, totally.
I really like so this when Roger announced this, I think it was in March.
Yes, this was when the single came out.
Yeah, and the single came out, and I listened to it, and I was like, sold. I'm going to pre-order this. It was this track. Because it's amazing listening to it, and you're like, hang on, this guy is how old?
Exactly.
Because Roger has such youth in his voice still. It's amazing. It starts off with, it's got a pretty faithful backing track to the original song.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We've both heard all of the originals of the covers,
right down to
this album,
right down to the chimes at the very beginning.
Yeah, but it also has an added piano part, and it's got a bigger, beefier guitar part too.
Yeah.
It just totally rocks a lot more.
Oh yeah, the start of the album, you're shot from a cannon.
Oh yeah.
Like, it brings in with the chimes, Roger's voice, and then the drums come in, and then you're just here.
Yeah.
You've arrived at the opening song.
Yeah. Probably my favorite part of it, the instruments anyway, is the guitar riff. How it kind of coils around.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And then also, and as for voices, we got the McCrary sisters.
Yes.
Who apparently Roger had dug up from. They used to tour with Bob Dylan.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he saw like an old 70s video of them and said, I want them to sing on my album, and they found him.
Well, I'm glad, because they are, the vocals besides Roger that carry many songs on this album.
Yeah.
And they do great work.
Yeah, you got great call and response in the chorus, and also I didn't notice until I listened to it a few times. They have this great part where in the middle of the verse where he pauses.
Mm-hmm.
They have this great ooh part under it.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
I hadn't noticed it before, and then when I did, I was like, whoa, this has just got a layer deeper.
Oh, yeah, they're not just doing the call and response vocals. They're pretty much carrying the entire song, almost like, like the foundation of the vocals, and then Roger's obviously at the top.
Oh, yeah.
Up front in the mix. And I'm going to say this about the entire album, and I have it in my notes. This album, let me explain this. This album, I call it Old Man Roger, because
yeah,
the dude is old, but he's experienced, and some songs he comes across as a different type of old man, as an old man who is fed up with things, an old man who's seen a lot of things, an old man who misses things.
Yeah.
And in this song, it's the old man Roger singing to his girl that, even though I'm 70 years old, babe, you ain't seen nothing yet.
That's awesome.
So,
I love that idea.
So this album, and I'm going to point this to a lot of songs. I have it in my notes on a lot of these songs, Old Man Roger. And I kind of even like the strained parts when he's doing the as long as I have you.
Oh, yeah.
Like the way he kind of goes down in there, which you can get in a deeper register when you get older.
Yeah.
It's Roger telling his girl, hey, babe.
Oh. Ladies.
So Old Man Roger, I love it.
Yeah. And I would say that it sounds kind of, to me, the production's a little bit Wall of Soundy, Spector's Wall of Sound.
Yes, that's like I said, when you're shot from a cannon, it's like they throw everything at you.
Right, mainly just that the sound is really big.
Oh, yeah.
Not so much that they have a ton of instruments, because they've got 2 guitars, piano, percussion, and that's about it, really.
Yeah.
But it's just that it's the way it's mixed is just so big and in your face that it's like, whoa.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I also wanted to quickly point out, Mick Talbot is the keyboard player on this album.
Yes.
He was the keyboard player for Going Back Home, as well as Be Lucky. So I was, impressed to see, some of these credits have, past experience. So they weren't just session musicians who were brought into the studio.
Yeah. I would say the biggest difference between this song and the original is Roger's vocal itself. Because it seemed, when you listen to it, it's a pretty straightforward Motowny kind of song.
Oh, yeah.
And then Roger just makes it explode vocally, because he's hitting really, really high notes, as Roger does, hitting notes that he has no business being in the neighborhood of.
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
Yeah, Roger is old and he's got a deep voice, whereas the original, he was a young man and he had a slightly higher voice.
Right.
So that is a big difference in the vocals, but yet they still work, in my opinion.
I think it works a lot better.
I'm not gonna.
That was a dismissive. Okay.
Well, I've heard all the covers as well, and I'm not here to differentiate which one is better.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say which things are different, and I'm not sure if one may be better than the other, but it's like this one has this, which the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
Which may work in this version.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna be one to say the original is better, especially with the second track.
Oh, yeah. How far? A cover of a Stephen Stills original.
Yes. And I've been a fan of Stephen Stills for a long time. And this is not one of his most well-known songs. So I was surprised to see this in the track listing. I'm like, wait a minute, is that the Stephen Stills? Yep, it is.
That's the Stephen Stills? Yeah.
Pretty
That's
much.
the one.
And this is what surprised me, because Stephen Stills is a contemporary of Roger Daltrey.
Yeah.
Definitely not in the same music category.
No.
But in the same timeline. The two of them were even at Woodstock together.
That's right, yeah.
Because you had Crosby, Stills, and Nash form in the late 60s carrying on through the 70s. So this is what surprised me. Typically when Roger or The Who do covers, they almost barely cover their contemporaries. It's always 50s music and early 60s music.
Oh, the R&B that they loved.
Yeah. And this is Stephen Stills is a folk artist. This is a folk song originally.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about this, because he turns this folk song into a rock song, and it still works, in my opinion.
I agree.
And the first note I have on here, which I was alluding to earlier, great guitar playing by Pete, and in all caps, guitar solo.
Oh yeah.
It's short.
Uh-huh.
But I'm just like, listening back, I'm so pleased to be like, there's a guitar solo here.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's like Pete's one of the band, but this song, I would imagine, because he knows Stephen Stills as well, it's like, it's like, I want to make Stephen proud.
Right. I was watching, there's actually a short series of videos about of those interviews with Dave, the producer, and Roger.
I didn't see them.
Yeah, I'm going to send them to you.
All right.
And we'll probably link them here.
Definitely.
And they talk about how Pete came in and just said, all right, I'm just going to solo over the whole track. Is that okay with you? That's good? Okay, I'm going to do that. and how lucky is Roger to have Pete Townsend just come in and lay down a couple of solos over
exactly.
a track like that. And it's just prime Pete.
Oh yeah,
this guitar playing.
And as a Stephen Stills fan, I even wrote that Pete almost sounds like he's playing as Stephen,
right? Because
Stephen did a lot of solos on acoustic guitar, as well as electric. So, you know, if I had not looked at the credits, maybe for a split second I would have thought, is that Stephen Stills cameoing on his own song?
Yeah,
but it's Pete playing by Stephen, and they're two really good guitar players. So I kind of get a smile out of the fact that it sounds like Pete's playing Stephen, but it's still Pete.
Yeah. So me not having much experience with CSN, why? And
sometimes why, as they call themselves.
Yeah. And I hear the beginning of it, and it sounds like rough mix. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You're talking Pete's solo album.
Pete's solo collaboration with Ronnie
Lane.
Okay.
No, Ron was from the Stones.
Ron Lane.
Yes.
Ronnie Lane from the Faces. It sounds like that since Pete was in a folk mode through that whole album.
You're so right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the wooden acoustic stuff he did on that album.
And more than anything, it just sounds like this is Pete having fun.
Oh,
this is what he does to chill. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the rest of the song, let's not talk just about Pete. I think that having heard the original, that Roger really ups the stakes on how far. His highs are a lot higher, his lows are lower, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I love the different vocal delivery.
And I love the sort of, the melody's kind of wandering, you know? And Rogers just makes it really solid, makes it really catchy. This is the one that is constantly running through my head after I listen to the album, even though it's like number 2 and I have 9 other songs.
Yeah.
Between the beginning and the end. You know,
you mentioned wandering, kind of segueing. The opening lyrics of this song is about sort of living life on the road.
Yeah.
I've lived all my life. I've lived on the road, and I've realized that a suitcase ain't my home. And I've always just kind of liked that lyric, but I never really paid attention to it until Roger's cover of it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I like Stills' original, but because it wasn't one of his most well-known songs, I kind of I listened to it and didn't really pay that much attention to it.
Sure.
But listening back, I was like, you know what? I really love that lyric, because these are two guys who are constantly on the road. Stills is touring solo with CSN and sometimes Y, and even a couple of years ago, Buffalo Springfield even reunited and they did a tour.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that he was part of them.
And Roger as well does a lot of touring with The Who.
And without
the Who.
I think he's currently on tour.
Yeah, which is amazing. Like, he's still going out there, and you know, sometimes his tour is like not even his solo work. Like, he'll just come out and he'll just do Tommy.
Yeah,
because that's one of the most things he's well known for.
Right.
Is, you know, not just singing Tommy, but also being Tommy.
Yeah,
exactly. And of course, after the show, he'll do his encores and other songs like that.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who's still, he's just like constantly out there, and
he's a workhorse.
Oh,
God bless him.
And he does a lot of work with charity as well. So if someone asks him to do a show and he wants to draw in more money, he'll say, "Hey Pete, you want to bring the band in?" And that's why we got Tommy live at the Royal Albert Hall last year.
Yeah.
In its entirety for the first time, because that's going to draw a crowd to hear that. So when I heard that line about traveling the road, both those two, it made me kind of smile, just like, these old farts.
Yeah.
So these first two for two, are two of my favorite on the album.
I agree. Yeah.
So then we get to track 3, Where Is a Man to Go? Originally, Where Is a Woman to Go?
Yeah, it's a cover of a Dusty Springfield song.
Mm-hmm. And if anyone really knows Dusty Springfield, she has roots in country. So this is what I like. Like, so far we took an R&B song, made it rock. We took a folk song, made it rock. Now we're taking the country song and making it kind of rock.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting in that in this interview I watched with Roger and Dave, Roger particularly likes this one because it's a pretty solid mix of rock, country, and gospel.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in the country sound, I think comes mainly through in the verses, and the bridge is where the gospel stuff lies.
Yeah.
And I've heard the Dusty original, excellent, but I think the idea of changing the sex of the person singing, so it's Where's a Man to Go, it makes a lot more sense. It fits well because it's talking about a man or a woman in the original going to a bar and drinking because they just went through a breakup.
Right.
And I think it makes a lot more sense for a man to be trying to hide the feelings and just be like, what? I have so many feelings bottled up and I can't really share them.
Oh yeah, it's a more common theme when men do country songs.
Right. And I think the heart of the song lies in the line of I want to see how many tears $10 can buy.
Yeah.
And that's a good line.
Yeah. This is one that I would only really play in the context of the album, listening to the album. It's not one that I will go to my iTunes and pull up singularly. So while I still enjoy it, it's best enjoyed for me as part of the context of the album, and I don't think it's anything extraordinary. But who knows? Maybe after hearing some of those interviews, I may change my mind.
Yeah. And a couple other notes I have here, just vocal notes. Really, I really like. I really like how at the end the backing vocals sort of have their moment to shine.
Oh yeah, the what was their name?
The McCrary sisters.
McCrary sisters. Thank you. This is another one that I pointed out, and we're like they're doing good work.
Oh yeah, this is definitely a highlight for them. And then the line where Roger sings that he's feeling down is like, dude, you doing these vocal gymnastics at your age cannot be safe. But he's Roger Daltrey, so
exactly.
So we go ahead to move on to number 4 then.
Yeah, sure.
Get On Out of the Rain, a cover of a song by the punk band Parliament. Funk
band Parliament. Yeah, which originally was called Comin' Out of the Rain.
Yeah, I feel like it's a sort of Won't Get Fooled Again kind of lyric change.
Oh, yeah.
Because you never hear the word won't and won't get fooled again. It's always we don't get fooled again, just because it sounds tougher. And I feel like it's the same idea here.
Yeah. And this one was written by Clyde Wilson and Ruth Copeland. And but interestingly enough, if you read the credits, it says written by Clyde Wilson and Ruth Copeland. Underneath that, written by Roger Daltrey.
Right.
Like he's not sharing the songwriting credit with them. He's just listed like under them.
Like adding to it, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a couple of things different, like you mentioned, the title.
The title's different,
and
also
and that line in the song, and also there's a couple other things like some lyrics inside. Say, there's one about the original says molesting. And he changes it to mistreating.
A little more gentle.
Yeah.
He also changes a bunch of I's to theys. I can't think of specific lines, but I did read the lyrics of the Parliament as I was listening to it, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, he changed the I to they to make it more universal, I guess, because we should, I guess, talk a little bit about the lyrics. Speaking of universal. These are, we don't get political here on the show.
No.
But I'll just say these are very topical lyrics.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird because I did some research, and it's very easy to read a political message into it because it was written as a political song.
Oh yeah, and this the original the Parliament was from 1970, so it would have been aimed at Nixon at the time.
Nixon and probably LBJ, why not? And there's the very pointed line: the president's talking about change, but no one has the sense to get out of the rain. And you can read that in a couple of different ways, I think, now. Because Roger, according to my research, is actually fairly conservative for a musician.
See, that's what surprised me, because I have written in my notes Roger singing politics and then question mark.
Yeah, he tends to like not talk about politics at all.
That's the other Roger.
Yeah, Roger Waters, ladies and gentlemen. And when he does, it's usually just sort of a vague like this thing.
Yeah.
It's usually keeping it safe and that everyone can agree on stuff.
Sort of like kind of like, by the way, we can't ignore this is an issue.
It's like, but along the lines of people are starving or people are dying of cancer and we can't have that.
Yeah.
Who would who would disagree?
Or there needs to be change, like it won't get fooled again.
Right. And so that you could read a political statement into this. I wouldn't. Don't worry about it. Just make it like we should be better to each other, I think, is the message of the song.
Right. It's very easy to read a political message, especially when you have the word president literally throughout the lyrics of the song. So you could just look at that one word and be like, oh, it's a political song.
Right.
But I guess I can see why it isn't. And my notes here he is again, ladies and gentlemen. Here's old man Roger again. This is a guy who has lived through so much and has dealt with so much crap in his life that these whole politics things, he's like, oh yeah, the president's talking about change. Oh yeah, that's nothing new. I saw that 40 years ago.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's old man Roger again on this song, which I love.
Right. And also with old man Roger, you get the McCurry sisters again.
Yes.
And this is another one of their spotlight tracks.
Oh yeah. The way that they sing to like almost like they sing in between the lines to sort of keep the song going.
Yeah, definitely.
And speaking of singing, I love the way that old man Roger is singing on the verge of shouting, "Hey!" at the end of every chorus.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because he's old man Roger, and he's like, I'm singing these words, and I could have sung these words 40 years ago, and nothing's changed.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, coming in clutch on the killer guitar solo is our man Pete Townsend.
Oh, that was Pete doing it?
That was Pete playing the solo.
Well,
and it is killer.
Yes, it is. It is a great solo. So that's all I got on that one. Anything else? All right. So let's move on to track 5. I've Got Your Love, written by Boz Scaggs, who is another sort of contemporary, a little bit of a later contemporary for The Who, but still, someone who was with them in the 70s all throughout. This one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I have it written here. Pretty straightforward, as if Roger asked and Boz said yes, and Roger didn't want to upset him. It's a safe cover.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. And again, going back to the video interviews, Dave and Roger were talking about how they wanted to slightly increase the tempo, and it's very slight. And then get rid of Dave called it a 16-minute guitar solo in the middle, but it's not.
It's not.
It's like 2. It's a fairly long guitar solo, but it's also done again by Pete. And I really, really like this one for like the opposite reason that I love the Get On Out of the Rain solo.
Why is that?
Because this one is really understated.
Oh yeah.
It sort of has a fade in sound to it.
Yeah.
There's not really a definite end beginning to each of the notes. And it's really short. And Roger kind of says, maybe we should have extended the solo a little more.
Oh, did he say that?
Yeah. And it's actually, according to that video, it's one of Roger's favorites on the album.
Yeah, like I still like it, but to me, it doesn't. I wouldn't say improve upon the original. They're kind of on the same level for me.
Okay.
Probably because it is pretty much straightforward, and they're almost playing it safe here on this one.
A little bit.
With a little bit of spice to make you differentiate the covers without hearing the vocals.
Sure.
But this one, to me, it is what it is. It's a cover of "I Got Your Love" by Boz Scaggs.
One thing I do really like is that this is a voice that Roger has very rarely used recently. That's one of the things that Dave talks about in the videos, is that Roger has several voices as a singer, and we'll talk about that a little more, I think, when we get to Into My Arms. And this is this very tender kind of vocal that hasn't been seen in a long time, just because Roger finds it difficult, I think, because it's a pretty high kind of vocal. The voice I'm thinking of, if you're familiar with his solo material, is kind of like the one from Giving It All Away.
It's been a while since I've heard that.
Okay,
one.
then how about if I recall How Many Friends from the Who by Numbers?
Hmm.
Yeah?
I'm talking about in like, tender, and the fact that he's reaching up in those high notes.
Yeah. And also sort of the verses of Love Reign O'er Me. You know?
I mean, I'm just thinking about that, and I'm just thinking about how Roger. I can see why that would be hard for him to do a tender vocal because when you have the older voice, your voice tends to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So if you want to go high for this song, it's gonna require some effort.
Right.
And one could hear this song. I'm not one of those people, but one could hear the song and hear the strain in his vocal
a little bit
and not like it.
A little, yeah.
For me, I don't mind it because it's not like he went further and tried too hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost like he knows his range.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, on this note, if I strain for a second, so be it.
Yeah. The man's a professional who knows where to draw the line.
I would say so.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see why someone would look at this one and get kind of turned off by the strained vocals. But this one, I don't mind because this is the kind of song that would require it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this one's just kind of fine for me.
Yeah. So what do you think of Into My Arms, track 6?
I'm a hypocrite because this one
okay.
Because this one is very straightforward, but it's one of my favorites on the album.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's very straightforward since Nick Cave, who wrote and did the original, he has a natural, deep, old man vocal, even if he's not an old man.
Mm-hmm.
But the notes that Roger sings, I don't hate Nick Cave, but Roger has a better, deeper vocal, in my opinion.
I agree.
Than Nick Cave, because Nick Cave is one of those, singers. But like almost singers in like quotation marks, because like he can get away with it, because he has that sort of dark and brooding personality. I mean, just look at any picture of him, he looks he looks gothic,
right? You look at the cover of the album this is from.
Oh yeah,
and it's just like him looking.
That was our Nick Cave impression.
Yeah, he just looks kind of the dark, disturbed genius sort of guy,
right?
And apparently he's written a lot of really good songs and I just now heard of him.
Oh yeah.
Again, kind of taking a note off the video interviews. I'm gonna stop eventually. Don't worry about it. Dave says that Roger sounds more like Johnny Cash than Nick Cave in this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's a lot better too because Roger has more of a. Again, he adds more drama to a song through his voice.
Oh yeah.
I think listening to the Nick Cave, I've only heard the Nick Cave one once, but it sounds like just pretty much straight recitation of the lyrics.
Oh yeah.
There's less emotion to it,
and
that's kind of what he does. That's okay.
Right, and when Nick Cave goes for those lower notes, there are some notes where it doesn't even sound musical. It just sounds like he's just using the lower register of just his voice in general.
Speaking voice.
But when Roger goes for those deep notes, they are still musical. That's why I said he has slightly better, deeper notes because they're actual notes.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Now, like I said, it works for Nick Cave, but Roger has this thing in his voice that simply
it's so much deeper and richer.
Yeah, and this is why it's one of my favorites because this one is Roger totally sparse. It's just him, a piano, I think a cello as well.
Yes, and some tubular bells.
Right. So this is like the first song on the album where we're quieting things down a little bit, and the band takes a break. Roger is just at the microphone, and it's really. If this album were like a live concert, this would be like a very intimate moment, I would think, and I'd be as hooked as I was when the band was playing the previous 4 songs or 5 songs.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely I think one of the emotional highlights of the album.
And what's really interesting, why I'm curious to know, and maybe you can answer this one. Why I'm highly assuming Roger picked this one himself.
Roger picked all of these.
Okay, but the reason why I should bring that up is because the lyrics about religion in this song really intrigue me.
Yeah.
Because since Roger picked this song, now sort of like Roger's politics, I'm not sure how he is spiritually, because he doesn't put his spirit out as much as say Pete. But this one's really interesting because he sings about I don't believe in Angels, but if I did, I'd send some to you.
Yeah.
You know, like nice lyrics and all. But like when I first heard that lyric and not knowing the song, obviously, I was like, oh, that's a pretty interesting lyric. I don't believe in angels. Like all the sort of not criticisms of religion, but just like I personally don't believe in that stuff.
Yeah.
But if I did, this is what I would, do for you.
Yeah, I think that's more along the lines of just the speaker of the song, whether it's Nick or Roger, saying more along the lines of "You mean this much to me," to the object of his affection, which I think is really cool. Honestly, for lack of better word, it's sort of like bargain in a way.
Yeah,
is that I would give up a lot of things to spend some time with you or to just hold you in my arms.
Right, but it intrigues me that Roger picked this one because I don't know anything about him spiritually. So this is one of my favorites, and I said I'm a hypocrite because this one is pretty straightforward.
Sure,
from the original, it's piano.
He adds a few more instruments, but that's about it.
But they don't come to the front or anything like that.
No.
So this one's straightforward, but it's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah. Speaking of favorites,
yes,
You Haven't Done Nothing.
You Haven't Done Nothing, written by Stevie Wonder. Again, another contemporary.
Yeah. And
this is probably the most innovative cover.
Yeah, it's clearly the most different from the original.
Clearly,
partly because Stevie Wonder's using the superstition guitar part.
Oh,
again.
I'm not going to defend Stevie Wonder entirely, but that's kind of like one of his signature. When he has that sound, you can play any song on that sound, and it's like, oh, that's the Stevie Wonder sound.
That's true.
But they changed the instrumentation, they changed the rhythm, and it still works, in my opinion.
Yeah, that backing track is nasty.
It is. They are dragging that backing track through the mud.
Yeah, and in the video interview, Dave played the most of the backing track for the brass section. And the leader, the arranger of the brass section and the trumpet player says while he's listening to it, says, "Oh, you guys are not going to heaven." I love that.
And I just love how the brass are echoing the doo-wop from the original.
A little bit.
That Stevie and the Jackson 5, who did the backing vocals for the original.
That's right. Yeah,
that's why he was like, "Jackson, sing!" Because that was the Jackson 5 singing. They were doing the doo-wop. Doo-wop. I love that the brass are echoing that. Not as much, like it's not a solo or anything, but in between the lines, you hear "You haven't done nothing," and I'm like, call back. I like that.
Yeah,
I really like that.
And I just love the distorted guitars, and it's got that really big brass sound, especially on the main riff, blah blah sort of sound to it. Roger, I describe his vocals in this as growling and howling in my notes.
Oh yeah, it's old man Roger again, in my opinion.
And in the video, he says that he could have played with the phrasing and the rhythm of the vocal part for weeks.
I bet. Especially considering that Stevie Wonder wrote this song for President Nixon at the time. Yeah. And then, fun fact, not because of Stevie Wonder, Nixon resigned 2 days after the single came out. I would say these are topical lyrics as well, especially the line in the chorus. "We're sick and tired of hearing your song about how you're going to change right from wrong." Because it's almost like the president speaking is like a record that we've been playing for like 40 years.
Yep. Yeah.
And I've always liked that. It's old man Roger just saying, play something else, please. Do something. Yeah. Again, a possibly political thing, but since we're not really clear on Roger's political leanings, who cares? Right. I'm just, one can make that political, especially knowing if one knows the context of the original. Right. Yeah. It still applies here. And this is actually Pete's favorite song on the album. I can totally see that. So, there you go. And the McCrary sisters doing incredible backup work on this one. Oh my God, yes. They are carrying the song just as much as Roger. The way they sing is nasty as well. Yeah. Almost like, "Sing that, old man. We agree with you." Yeah. And also just interjecting their own "You ain't done nothing. You ain't done nothing" sort of bits in. It's just nasty stuff. I love it. Yeah. And I think this is Sean, and I can't pronounce his last name. Sean Janicki. Thank you. Yeah. I believe this is him doing the guitar solo because it lists him as electric and Pete on acoustic for this one.
Yes.
But did you notice the guitar solo is speaker to speaker on this one?
Yeah.
Which I really liked because it just adds to that whole chaotic feel of how just nasty this song is. Like, we're having a guitar solo, but we're gonna hurt your ears. How it just goes back and forth.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
So this is, obviously this is one of my favorites on the album.
Yeah, it's an excellent one.
Yeah.
Next one is Out of Sight, Out of Mind.
Written by Clyde Otis and Ivy Jo Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the album, in terms of covers, has peaked. Peaked with You Haven't Done Nothing.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Because now we're starting to go a little down.
Yeah. I feel like this album is kind of top heavy.
Yes.
And that you just get like 2 or 3 in a row that aren't great.
Mm.
And
you're talking about 2 or 3 in a row toward the end?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I would say, Out of Sight, Out of Mind is actually my least favorite song.
I don't know if it's the slow rhythm or the slow vocals.
The wailing brass.
The wailing brass, big term here, slow. This one is just not memorable to me.
No, the guitar has a real backseat on this one, and I mean, Roger still has a passionate and powerful vocal because he can't do anything else.
No, the one thing about this album in general is you can't say the vocals are bad.
No.
I mean, you could, I guess, be nitpicky and find one spot, but I'm not going to say this song's bad because of Roger.
No.
He's not to blame on this one, but for me, it's this SLOW.
Yeah, it's just song choice, really.
Yeah.
And track order, let's be fair.
Oh, yeah, because I keep saying you ain't done nothing. You haven't done nothing is awesome. Yeah. And then, maybe you would expect to go down a little bit, but now it's just like you almost plummeted to how slow can we turn down the metronome on the next song. So this one puts the brakes because you're driving with the driving force. You ain't done nothing. I'm just gonna keep going with that by accident. Whatever. And then Outside Out of Mind comes along and hits the brakes.
Oh God, yeah.
But
it's not bad per se.
No, it's not bad, but it's not just memorable.
Right.
And it's barely 2 minutes.
That's
which also
makes also the positives of it though.
But it makes it forgettable.
That's true.
Because it comes, does its thing, does its thing, and I'm like, oh, the song's over.
Yeah. it's just gone. I think it's mercifully short, but yeah, whatever. I'll skip it a lot of times.
Yeah, this is the one where I'm listening on the CD because we listen to the albums a lot when we prepare for the show. Yeah, this is the one where kind of like every time we get to track 8, it would just kind of be like, can we just,
yeah.
Huh? What? Is there an album going on? Huh? Yeah. I'm being mean, but this is the one after you haven't done nothing. It was just like, yes, I hope the whole album's like this. The rest of the album, no, it's not. So not one of my favorites. Probably if I had to pick, it's my least favorite.
Yeah. So now number 9 though, Certified Rose, which is one of the Roger originals, which he wrote with Gerard McMahon, who helped him out on Rocks in the Head.
Yeah, they wrote the last 3 songs on that album. Now I haven't heard the whole album, but I did listen to those 3 because I wanted to get some background on the 2 songwriters, and they're pretty good songs.
Yeah, and this continues pretty good tradition, I guess, that Roger has of writing songs about his daughters.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because on Rocks in the Head he wrote Everything a Heart Could Want about his daughter Willow,
who also sings backup vocals on that song.
Yeah, and this is about his daughter Rosie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Rosie Lee Daltrey.
Cool.
She's in her 40s now, so it's kind of like it's not so much singing to a little girl as much to a woman that he is immensely proud of. You can tell.
Oh yeah.
Just the hope and pride that you can hear in his voice it's really cool.
Oh yeah, and the thing was, I didn't know that's his daughter's name. Sure. So I listened to this album before looking really at any credits, songwriting credits, blah blah. I thought this was another cover.
Oh really?
I thought this was another cover, but now that I know that Roger wrote it, it almost sounds like Roger wrote his own cover because this is a very nice love song, and if anything, I would have guessed this was originally like a country song because the word rose or flowers appear in country song titles. Yeah. So that's what I thought. Like when I listened to this, I think I heard it in the car first. When I heard it first, I was like, okay, like when I get home, like it'd be interesting to see like what country artist did this originally.
Yeah, guess what? You're listening to it. The original.
Exactly. very, very nice love song.
Yeah.
Very, very nice lyrics. You know,
It's clear that through the lyrics and the performance that Rose gives Roger hope.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I love the bit in the chorus. When the petals fall, you will always bloom again, and the world will come to know that you're my certified rose. Basically, like the fact that she's 40, she'll be getting older, but he still thinks of her as this blooming, beautiful flower, and that's really nice.
It's really sweet.
This is Old Man Roger again.
Yeah,
singing.
Old Man Roger being so proud of his youngins,
and I love the way that you're my certified rose, because it's almost like Grandpa with. I'm imagining Rose's little girl just sitting on his lap, and he's just doing that to make her. He's doing that deep voice to make her laugh or something.
Yeah,
it's Old Man Roger doing that vocal, and it just makes me happy.
It's really sweet.
Yeah. So all right, now we can move on to the next one.
Yes, The Love You Save, original by Joe Tex.
Not the Jackson 5 song.
I honestly don't have much to say about this, really.
This one is another not memorable one.
Yeah, it's
especially after Out of Sight, Out of Mind.
It's that part too.
It's almost like you could be like, okay, Out of Sight, not a great cover. Let's get a really good cover now.
Nah,
not really. But honestly, I think I like it a little bit better, but only ever slightly. Only because it's not as slow as the original. It's a little faster, and that's probably the only thing that makes this song just a little bit better, in my opinion.
Right. It's got some interesting motion to it, where the whole song stops for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that happens in quite a few songs. I'm not bothered by it.
Yeah.
Where they stop at the word stop. I kind of expect that sometimes.
Yeah. It reminds me of what's the James Taylor song?
Oh, how sweet it is to be loved by you.
Yeah, that's the one.
I want to stop
and
thank you, baby.
Yeah, it does that bit. And it's like, okay, fine. I'll give you a half grin for doing that.
Oh, you know who else does this?
Was
Paul McCartney in his song Wildlife.
I haven't heard that one, actually.
It's not a great song because it's not a great album. I mean, I love the dude, but that is such a cliche because he's like, you better stop. And then he just, to be honest, I don't even remember what the next lyric is. Because when it gets to that point, it's like, yeah, Paul, you did it. You stopped it, stop.
Well done, sir.
So it's nothing new. But when it happens here, I kind of expect it, to be honest. So it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But
it starts with this Motown soul rhythm and blues. Genre.
Yeah. I mean, I really like the way it transitions, especially the chord changes with oh, the love you save. Only because since I'm someone who can read sheet music, it sounds like that's like the one chord that doesn't fit in with the key, but it still works. I wouldn't say it's a bad cover closer on the album.
We should definitely say there are no bad songs on this.
No.
Particularly because a lot of them were successful. So, and Roger cannot sing badly at all, as we've mentioned.
Right.
And the band is too talented to be anything less than great.
And it could have been something as simple as the band, they changed the arrangements on, how far, and you haven't done nothing. It could have been just like, can we do anything different? Not really.
Nah.
Or maybe they just all love the song and they want to be faithful to it.
Yeah, and they just kind of wanted to give it or maybe they just wanted to take a back seat and let Roger have fun.
Right. So, I mean, that's kind of how I feel about this one and Out of Sight, Out of Mind.
Yeah. But then we close with Always Heading Home, the other original by Roger and someone named Nigel Hinton.
I did a little backstory on this. The only thing I could find was he co-wrote the song Take Me Home from the album Can't Wait to See the Movie, which I haven't heard.
Oh, okay. I can't think of that song off the top of my head, but I know the album.
That's the only thing that Wikipedia said that the two of them had done together.
That was the 1987 album where Roger just dove headfirst into 80s pop.
Good or bad?
Nah, it's not that good. The only good song on it is Lover's Storm. Check it out.
That is a good song. You played that to me. Could have been a Who song.
Could have.
Yeah.
I agree.
But they wrote this one together, and this one, it's Old Man Roger, but here's a little bit of a caveat for Old Man Roger. His vocals sound weaker. They're not necessarily weaker. Okay. They sound weaker and older, but it fits the song.
It helps the song, I think. This sounds very much like something that was written after Roger had a near-death experience, which he did. And that he's reflecting on how you can see the value in everything, whether it's big and small. And this is definitely, I think, the best example of that idea I said at the beginning of the review, that you need an old voice to sing a soul song. And this is that to a T. I love how Roger's voice is just layered and swathed in echo. It sounds like he's singing into a cathedral.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know?
Yeah, it's a beautiful final song, and there really is no other place on the album for it.
Yeah. And I think it's a satisfying farewell to not only the album itself, but, I mean, since Roger's 74...
Not getting any younger.
And Pete has been really, really, really slow about getting anything out there with The Who. This could be Roger's final recording output.
That is entirely true.
Which scares me a little to think about, because I love The Who and their individual members so much.
Right.
But they ain't getting any younger.
And the fact that he's had, meningitis and he's been fighting it.
And even other health problems.
And he said that he wanted to give up. He got so weak that he didn't really want to do this anymore. So who knows if that will come back. And
yeah
but I think it's a beautiful song, and I love the return, especially where he gets to always heading home and then comes back, we're always heading home. The way that sort of comes in, I really like it. Just kind of a little nice seal at the end of
tag
at the end of the chorus. And the one line that has stuck out with me every time I've heard this song, I had to write it down. The feeling something's missing that can't be said in words. Very nice.
Yeah.
He sings every chorus differently, I noted. It could be so easy to keep it all the same.
Yeah.
Because especially if it's one that he wrote himself. But, it kind of in a subtle way shows how good of a vocalist Roger is.
Yeah.
Whether he did it intentionally or not, but every chorus is sung differently. That's just something to point out if you want to be more proud of him.
Oh yeah. It's like one of those things where he plays this at the end of his concerts on his solo tours now.
Makes sense.
And it's like, this is one of those where you give a standing ovation with tears in your eyes.
Yeah.
It's excellent. Gorgeous.
Now, I do have a question for you. The very end of the recording, not necessarily the song, does it sound to you like it almost ends abruptly, like the song ends and then the track itself ends?
I mean, yeah.
This was listening back. It was the first time I heard it in headphones to prepare for this review. It was the last time I heard the album, and when that happened, it was like, oh, was that always on the CD? Because I only heard it like in my car out loud.
It cuts off a little bit.
It cuts off, and it almost sounds like they cut the tape there.
Yeah.
And it sounds kind of abrupt. I'm just wondering if anyone else notices it. It didn't bother me.
It didn't.
But
yeah, I noticed it, and I was like, oh, okay.
But it would have been a tad bit nicer if you got the final chord and it kind of just rung out and the track just slowly just faded away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When that kind of happened, it was almost like, oh, I wish I had this, but it doesn't ruin the song by any means.
It's a tiny, tiny detail that no one cares about, Tom.
And it is at the very, very end of the track.
Yes.
So, I mean, but we're professionals, so we gotta point this stuff out.
We're professional pedantics. Anyway, so that's our track by track.
Yep.
Overall thoughts.
I did write here what you said. This could very well be Roger's final studio album.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad he did it, because I think it would have been kind of dumb to go out on a collaborative project with some other guy that he's not associated with normally.
That's true.
No disrespect to Wilco or anything, because that album is gold, especially Wilco's guitars.
But that, if you think about it, that album is done for the similar reason.
That's true.
That Roger, pretty much made this one because he was diagnosed. Roger, like Pete, came in to help him.
Yeah.
And Wilco kicked it.
Yeah, thank God. Because Wilco seems like such a cool guy.
This was a very nice album to listen and review.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because it's fairly new, but I'm not sure how it's going to hold up in terms of listenability. And especially in the sense that, heaven forbid, in a couple of years, Roger shuffles off this earth, and this does officially become his last album. I have a thing with last albums where it's almost, for me, it's hard to listen to it because you're always going to associate thinking of that person's death. Like George Harrison's Brainwash came out literally almost a year to the day that he died.
Or just Double Fantasy, freaking
right.
Everyone knows how soaked in blood that album is, basically.
So that's why I'm saying I'm not sure how it's going to hold up. We'll see in a couple of years if Roger does release a new album, and then we'll play the whole scene out again. But this one was a very nice one to listen to and review it. And I'll be completely honest here. When he announced it back in March, you were way more excited than I was.
Yeah.
I kind of looked at it just like, cool. Now that, solo album.
Yeah.
And I'm sure maybe I'll stream it on Spotify.
Yeah.
And then you played me the opening track, As Long As I Have You. And at the time, I wouldn't say that it had hooked me, but I was just like, I was blown away. So I was like, dang, like this is the sound that's going to be on the new album. Now it's not a representative of the whole album.
Sure.
But I was just like, dang. And then leading up to the album's release, I said to myself, hey, Tom, you're a Who fan, right? So why don't you get the album?
Yeah.
But I'm like that with a lot of artists.
That's true. I mean, especially with the Who, because I've delved into their solo art a lot more. Their solo catalogs, as like I said, I've listened to all of Roger's solo albums, I think. And all of Pete's and all of John's and all of Keith.
All Keith's?
All one of Keith Moon's solo albums. 1.5. And
I know.
God. That totally derailed me for a second because Two Sides of the Moon is a trip.
It is. I've heard. That one I've heard.
And but yeah, having listened to Roger's fairly extensive catalog, and hearing this as an addition to it, I think it fits pretty well. It's the first thing he's put out in a quarter century, so okay, it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah,
than Rocks in the Head, because Rocks in the Head was like early '90s, late '80s pop. Sounds kind of sterile. And this, I'm glad that it's got this dirt grunge old sound to it. And it's a great album. As I said, it's top heavy. You get all the good stuff out of the way fast, and then you're kind of left with at the end.
Oh yeah, as I said, the album peaks for You Haven't Done Nothing.
Right.
And
I think if they just reordered it, it would have worked out a lot better.
Maybe. I mean, like I said, like I don't love Where's Amanda Go, but since it's track 3, I'm still getting into the album, so I don't mind it.
Yeah, because Where's Amanda Go is at least put in between, As Long As I Have You, How Far, and then hop over that to Get On Out of the Rain. That's great stuff around it.
Right. So maybe it's like where the song is placed. You're surrounded by greatness, so that song is going to be at least good.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't heard it in a different order, but I have to wonder if it was different, a different track list, would I, think of those last 2 covers a little bit different.
Yeah.
But in this track list, like I said, it's it starts to go up a little bit with the first 2, and then I'm picturing just like a roller coaster. So like you go up, Where's Amanda Go is like the level, and then you can go back up. After you haven't done nothing, you start to go down a little bit, but then with the 2 original Certified Rows is like you're at that flat level again.
Flatting again,
and then you a little bit down some more with The Love You Save, and then Always Heading Home is the flat, but you've literally arrived.
But it's a gentle curve at the end there.
Yeah, and you've arrived at the end of the ride.
Yeah, Always Heading Home is just so good.
Yeah.
So good, man. So good. Hey, Becca.
Oh my God. So, in terms of a rating for me.
Oh man, I hadn't really thought about this.
Well,
I know that Rolling Stone gave it 3.5 out of 5.
Oh, really? Like now I'm thinking here, like, do I even want to rate it since you didn't rate it?
I just hadn't given it too much thought, but have you?
I won't give. Okay, I have my number, but I won't give it. But I'll give my reasons for the number.
Okay. And
then you can, listeners, you can fill in the blank, and if anyone gets the number, I'll give you a prize. But the reason why I chose this number is great moments, good moments, with some fine covers. And that's my overall take on the album. I know it sounds generic, but you know there are great moments, good moments, and meh moments.
Yeah, I agree. I'm about the same. Is that I'm not gonna give it a perfect rating because it's not a perfect album.
No, I would not give it a perfect. So, a little hint: if anyone guesses 10, you're wrong.
Yeah. It seems like one of the ones that I'm gonna have to mix into my Roger rotation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Particularly the better stuff. I might just leave off the two lesser covers. But yeah, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too.
I recommend you go get it. It's
yeah,
good. You won't waste your money on it.
oh yeah, definitely. You know, even though I hesitated to go get it, I don't
Yeah.
regret buying it.
Yeah.
And
I'm not big into old Motowny rhythm and blues soul sort of stuff, and I really enjoyed it.
oh yeah,
So-
it's always good to get a different introduction to something. Like who knows? Maybe after listening to this album, I'll actually go listen to a Nick Cave. I mean, I only know two songs. I only know two songs really. I've got your I've got your love. Into my arms, thank you. And then I'm pointing behind me to the Shrek 2 soundtrack, A Little Drop of Poison.
I forgot he did that.
No, sorry, that was Tom
No.
Waits. Nick Cave did People Ain't No Good.
That's the one.
That's the one he did. And those two songs are not bad, but I can't judge Nick Cave after only on just two songs.
The only other thing I know he did was some weird thing about the mythical figure Orpheus.
No, I don't know that one.
Don't. It's fine. It's a weird one.
Right. Well, getting back to Roger Daltrey,
Yes.
if you have heard As Long As I Have You, tell me what did you think of it? What are some of your favorite tracks, or even some least favorite tracks? And did this song open up? Did this album open up any covers that you hadn't heard before?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all that I got. If you have not subscribed yet, you can click that big red button to subscribe and leave a comment down below. This is
it up? Where'd it go? I don't. It's been moving recently. YouTube's been changing things.
and they probably will.
Yeah.
But wherever the subscribe button, like button, the comment box, you know what to do. So
Give us some love.
Give us some love, please. We're trying to reach 200 subscribers by the end of the day, and that's not true.
At the end of the day, I thought you were gonna say year, and I was like, that might be manageable.
I mean, we have climbed quite a bit since we posted
bit.
our 100 Q&A, which, by the way, that was our most recent episode, so go check that one out as well.
Yeah.
If you want to hear more about how we prepare for the show and our thoughts on different music in general, we can hit up our individual pages, our individual YouTube channels. We'll link those down below in the description, as well as social media sites and previous episodes of the show. So go check that out.
Yeah, we'll link you also to the podcast that I run with our friend Luke
Yes,
about
definitely.
movies. We recently have been watching the James Bond movies, and we're going to review all of them. Also, a bunch of the Godzilla movies. I don't think they're going to come up on YouTube because Japanese production companies are really, really strict about the things that we can put on YouTube.
Really?
We're probably just going to put them on Vimeo. Don't quote me on that, though.
All right, but if that does happen, we will link you to Vimeo instead.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's all we got. So for Triple Threat, signing off. I'm Tom. Thanks,
Garrett.
and
Bye.
thanks for listening and actually watching this time.
Yeah.
All right, bye, guys.
Toodles.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching our review of Roger Daltrey's new solo album, As Long As I Have You, right here on Triple Threat. Tell us what you think of the album or about the show, give that like button a click, and subscribe so that we can see you next time.
Okay.
That's just me being, nerdy.
Sure. Yeah.
And just looking for things in the song to make people think I hate it. Because
You're
I
being
don't.
nerdy on a channel about 3 British rock bands?
Surprise. I've kept it hidden for 5 years.
I am shocked and ashamed and appalled. No.
I'm shook.
You're shook, you say.
I can't believe I said that.
You've been hanging out with Luke too much.
Or to quote the Ruddles, if you remember that, I'm shocked.
And stunned.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So
Hey, Outtakes, how you doing?
Yeah, having a good time talking about the love you save rather than actually listening to it.
Yeah.